Yay, all right. Hey, how's everyone doing? Yeah, lunch was great. I'm not a big fan of salmon, but this was great. So, this is the perfect time for a nap. Right now, I'll try to keep you awake. I'm an old man. Been known to falling off the stage, so I'll try to keep you entertained and awake. Okay, let's get started. We only have like 50 minutes. We are already 2 minutes late. So, thank you for coming out to Sweet Dog. I have lots of friends here in Stockholm. I love coming out here. So, thank you all for being here. Let's talk about AI. Have you had enough of AI? Like tired of it? Because everyone, is just talking about it. But let's talk about some really useful pieces of AI. Hopefully, you can find your context and things you are doing at work with some of these standards that are, trying to come up. So let's talk about MCPs and just the way these sessions go is like we submit and they're, picked a few weeks in advance, and things are moving so fast. So I will talk about MCPs, but has anyone talked about or been dabbling with skills a little bit, AI agentic skills? So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. It's just sometimes you got to slow down a little bit because there's just like so much happening with AI. Can we just do our jobs? So pick what works for you and just once in a while raise your head and see what else is new. So let's talk about all things AI. So my name is Sam. I am a developer advocate for Uno platform, which is an open source stack. Have a session later in the afternoon where we jump into that. But I will show you a little bit of our MCP stuff and this is relatable to any of you for whatever it is that you're doing. I'm not trying to show you what we have done, but just maybe get inspired to do things for your enterprise and your apps and your services. This is all pretty standard. So I live in northwest Pennsylvania. For a change, it was actually colder back home than it is here. So we get a lot of snow and ice here as well. That's me on pretty much most of the places on social. So if you need to get hold of me after, that's me. All right. How many of you are using AI right now for production apps, app building? Many of you, yeah. So things have evolved a lot. Especially in the last 6 months, 1 year, things are just changing so quickly. And I also know people who are hesitant to use some of this AI stuff. Like especially if you look at the creative things, people who write poetry or create music, and you look at what AI models are doing, it's hard to get over some of the ethical concerns. And it's right because like the things that they're learning from were not meant to be this open and for other types of training. So the concerns are real, but for software development, if you're not getting on board this train, like you and your company and your apps, somebody else will. And things are drastically changing in just how quickly AI is able to adapt. I read a great article the other day that says, code is cheap. The AI models and agents are able to generate so much of code so quickly, but software is not cheap. That's where we all come in. That's where you have to know the architecture. That's where you have to know how the pieces fit in together. But let's talk about AI. For those of you who are a little bit old like me, you might remember that this is nothing new. We have been doing AI for 50 years now, right? So if you look at how we started with training computers to identify pictures and objects, and that was just machine learning. Needed a lot of hand holding, right? Because like if you give it 99 pictures of cats and the 100th one, it's pretty good at guessing, but you are labeling each one of them as a cat, which takes a lot of effort. So we want the computers to do things on their own, which is why we have deep learning and neural networks. And we don't talk about these things anymore, but underneath all of the AI models and agents, it's a lot of this. It has evolved. But generative AI is where things are at because it can generate a lot of stuff. It's not just a single prompt and give you a response. It can actually iterate and it can work autonomously. So things have come a long, long way. Lots of choices in terms of, we're talking about software development. Pick your AI model, pick your AI agent, pick your IDE. It doesn't matter. They're all, they have specialized skills and things they're particularly good at, but all of them are, about the same. I personally find some of the, GPT type models to be very quick if you have the right guardrails, while Claude and Gemini, those are more like deeper thinking, reasoning models. So again, use whatever works for you. That's the end game. So, are there any downsides to any of us using AI? Well, sure, of course there is. So, a couple of points here. Again, I'm sure there are more downsides you can come up with. AI models, the large or small language models, they have a lot of knowledge. They have grokked the internet and they have learned about things and code in particular. And when you ask a question, it's able to respond with code or comments or images and videos and everything. Hallucinations are also real because AI has the classic male ego. If you ask me something that I don't know, I cannot get myself to say I don't know. I'm just going to make up stuff, right? So that's never going to go away entirely. When no one's noticing, like I don't talk to AI very nicely. Like the other day I was doing Claude and it generated a whole bunch of code and I said, this is shit. And it said, yes, you're absolutely right. Here are 3 more things I can do to help. So that's never going to go away because we need to understand what it's generating, right? So that's where the context is everything. Timestamp is a problem. Nowadays, we were just talking like we used to do RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Before the AI models respond to something that they don't know, you'd want them to go do some research, look up the latest docs, right? That becomes a little harder to scale. So there is an aspect of timestamp knowledge where if you have APIs that have changed on Monday, and the AI models have learned on Sunday, they just have no way of knowing. And that always will be the case until you go ask them to read up the latest docs. Now let's talk about agents who are more of the things that can computationally do things for you. It's not just a request and response system. It can actually write code. It can set up a calendar invite. It can actually do very real things. AI agents are often running blind because they have a lot of context about anything that's open source, but they don't know much about your platform and your app that is running. So that's where that context is really important. Agents often need ways to interact with your app, so they can. We like saying your AI needs to have eyes and hands. So it's not just you say build me a login screen and it generates a whole bunch of code. What is to say that it's working right? What is to say that it's actually doing the things that it was supposed to do? So it needs to interact with your app. History of going back to things is important, and enterprises need more confidence. So, all of this together means like context is everything for AI. So how do we bring context? Well, then there is this Model Context Protocol, MCP, which is why you're all here. So Anthropic, anyone know of Anthropic? It makes a lot of AI agents and models. They are sort of like the Apple. Like when there is an idea that's not brand new, they will actually do it right with the right specs, and just like Apple, it becomes like this new thing. But it's not brand new, it's just they did it right. So this whole thing started with Anthropic proposing a standard. So what everyone's realizing is all of these AI models and agents need a common language to speak to each other. Because otherwise, they will just learn of whatever is out there. You want it to learn about your database and your services and your APIs that are things that are very contextual to you. How do you do that? You need a language so that your AI agents and models can talk to whichever systems that you want. And without a standard, this becomes difficult. So this was about, this time last year when Anthropic first started talking about it, Microsoft is all on board, Gemini and Google is all on board. So everyone realizes the need for a spec, because without that, we really cannot connect all the pieces. So everything with Model Context Protocol starts at, I think, mcp.io. So start there. So the idea is you won't have those knowledge boundaries. You will have specialized tools that can do things for the AI agents, so they are not guessing, right? So you're essentially telling AI agents that here is an expert sitting here. When I ask you to do something, please do not guess. Please do not go do it yourself. Ask the expert, and that'll do it for you. So the whole name of the game is exposing context and specialized tools. We'll talk about what MCP hosts and servers and clients are, but by far the most useful thing about MCP are these things called MCP servers, which are exposing X number of tools, which are contextual, and then the AI agents have these tools to be able to access those. Any Star Wars fans in the room? Some of you? Yeah. I saw a meme that really hurt the other day. It's the old school Anakin and Padme meme, where Anakin is saying, I am using the latest and greatest things in AI. And Padme is like, are you really? And he's like, yes, I'm using MCPs and all that stuff. Are you really building APIs? Like, yes, I'm building APIs. That's what it comes down to. These are all APIs, essentially, right? It's just done differently. APIs for AI agents, not just for developers or other computing systems. So that's the future. So MCPs are well written at this point. They're still fighting over a lot of the smaller parts of the spec, but that's for the implementing details to worry about. But most of it is well written, and it's well architected. Lots of SDKs. So it doesn't matter what language, Python, TypeScript, C#, Java, everything is wrapped up in an SDK. So you, the developer, is having to do less. You don't have to think about transport mechanism all that much because the SDKs will kind of do that for you. The data transfer layer is the thing that you work with, and that's JSON RPC. You can do standard input-output, which is mostly over HTTP. If you need something which needs like more of a streaming from a server to a client, you can do server-sent events. That's supported as well. But everything is well documented, nice places to start. The IDE, the programming language, the SDK, the choice doesn't matter. It's all pretty open. Okay, now let's talk about some other things here, skills and instructions. And we were just having a conversation on how quickly things are changing. Like I'm hearing people saying, oh, MCP is so dead. I'm like, dude, we just started learning about this. How can we be so dead? Because everything is now a skill. And now people are saying, oh, skills are so bloated. This is so old school. We can look at context windows. And I'm like, geez, let's just calm down, learn the core parts of it. But nothing is dying. Nothing is falling off flavor. It's a matter of finding things that are useful to you and building your own stack. So you can use skills with MCPs. You can use skills with instruction files and agent MD files. It's all together. Do what works for you. Otherwise, there is a lot of churn in AI. So the future clearly is contextual tools and agents which are deeply grounded in documentation, in the tools that they have to use, so you can get more done as a developer, right? And we are building the very tools that will make us obsolete, right? I have not had this much fun building software in the last 20 years, but I also feel very sad sometimes because this is a craft that we knew so well to do, and now AI is able to generate so much code so much quicker. But it's just all about the glue and how we stitch software together. So let's look at things from a .NET perspective. I think most of you are doing .NET. Yeah. If you again do other things, feel free to jump into those SDKs. But .NET, modern .NET is great. The OS doesn't matter. The IDEs for everything. Really rich ecosystem. So we'll look at .NET SDKs for building some of the MCP stuff. And I will mention a little bit what this means for us. This was the Uno platform stack that's always been there. It's open source. Lets you build cross-platform apps with .NET that run on iOS, Android, Windows, Linux desktop, and WebAssembly. But this was us, last year. We looked at all of this AI stuff, and you can do this, for your enterprise, for your apps. We have kind of rediscovered layers of the stack with pure MCP because we see the benefit of what it can do. And again, use skills if it makes sense. I'll show you what this, really means when we, say you can expose MCPs. What does all this mean? It's all about developer and AI trying to work together towards a better, faster inner loop. All right, so embrace at your own pace, see what works for you, and dive in. So any questions so far before we jump into showing stuff? Any thoughts, any concerns? No hecklers in the house? Okay. All right, let's jump in. I got like 15 minutes in. So let's look at stuff, right? Seeing is believing. So first thing is, if you are new to Model Context Protocol, you want to start here. Just do a search on modelcontextprotocol.io. You're going to land up here. That's too big. Let's come back here. Getting started. Wait. Where's my mouse? Yeah, but it's not clicking on all the things. It's fine. We'll start somewhere here. So it tells you about what MCP standards are, what's in it for developers, what's in it for AI agents, build servers, clients, what are those things? So let's look at the architecture here for a second here. So there are three things in MCP land that they want you to know. One is a host, one is a client, and one is a server. Most people that I see building stuff, you're mostly in the server layer. So what this means is, think about this for from a Visual Studio standpoint. So Visual Studio, the IDE, or VS Code, or Cursor, or Cloud Code, that's the MCP host. So it's the thing that coordinates and talks to multiple clients, right? Inside of that IDE, you have GitHub Copilot or Claude Code or the Cursor agent or any of the agents that are inside and running inside of the IDE, those are the MCP clients, because they are the ones who are managing the conversation between multiple servers. And servers are the third-party endpoints. And that's where most of the benefit is. This is where you can actually bring your context for the database that's sitting under your table, your services, your APIs. That's where the most of the benefit is. So I don't know a lot of people who are building MCP hosts, but if that's something you need for your application, like your application needs to host MCP clients and manage that interaction, then go build a host and a client. But otherwise, most people I talk to, they're building servers, right? And how do you build stuff? Let's look at SDKs, and there is a lot, right? So there's TypeScript, Python, Go, Kotlin, C#, a lot of things you can build. Most things are pretty well thought through. So if you look at the stack back in again, so this is where it is. The transport layer is the actual communication between a host and a client and the server, and the data layer is the actual thing that gets passed back and forth. So that data layer is JSON, pretty easy to get started with. Okay, so let's look at things from a very simple standpoint. I'm here in VS Code. So let's go in here and let's look at some very basic stuff. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for, MCP. Is this legible? Everyone can read in the room? Okay. So this is a super simple Hello World app, just to kind of get our feet wet as to what this is. So let's make sure this is seeing everything. Yep. So this is a .NET app, and all it has is it's running on .NET 10, and all it has are these two package references. These are NuGet packages. This one is the one that you want. I think there are a few previews in. It's not done yet because the specs are still evolving, so they are thinking about authentication packages a little bit, but it's functional for the most part. So what this does is, if I look at program.cs, this is how a .NET app starts up, like the generic host. So here's my builder, and I'm adding a singleton service, which I'll talk to in just a second. But these are the two important things. MCP server, we are saying this .NET console app is now an MCP server. So there is no server running somewhere else. This is just running locally. We are saying that I'm going to use standard I/O and build tools from assembly. What that means is we are asking the AI agents to look in the assembly file, DLL file of this .NET app, to look up what the tools are. It could be tools, it could be resources, it could be APIs, but look in the assembly. That's all we are saying. So with that, we can write our very first MCP tool. So all it needs is the MCP server tool type as an annotation. And then we're saying this is an echo tool. It just echoes back whatever you say. And it's going to take a string and say hello from whoever, right? Just very simple hello world command line. So what does this mean? Let's look at things. Let's do fresh. This is way too big. All right. So in here in GitHub Copilot, anyone use GitHub Copilot? Most of the room. Okay, wow. I'll show you things in Cursor and Claude as well. It's all the same. So what you need here is there are these roles that your AI agents are working with. Is it ask? Is it plan? Is it agent mode? Agent mode is where you're a little bit hands-off. You're letting it do stuff. And this is your choice of AI models. Again, pick the one that works for you. For any deeper reasoning, like I prefer Claude, but that might be just me personally. The GPT-5 models are also great. So pick what works for you. In here are these settings. So what this is doing is showing me all the things that this particular AI agent has access to. So in here is my MCP, and there is my echo tool, because I clearly decorated that method saying this is a MCP tool. So it says, yeah, I see that echo tool. I can echo things back to you. So here, let's close this out. So here, if I say, well, actually, let's do this. Hello, if I do echo, you notice how it sees these things as tools. So I can go echo here. I can say sweet hug, and A user is trying to do something, and this is where it finds that tool and it's asking you for the first time. It's not going to keep asking you once you say, allow it for the whole workspace or the session, but the very first time it is going to ask you. Oh, and by the way, be a little careful with these. Like I see people liking automation to a point where they will allow AI agents to have full-on terminal commands. Yeah, just be careful because then they can do things that are unintended. Somebody dropped a production database the other day because like AI agents were allowed to do stuff. So it's going to run that tool, and it's going to hopefully come back saying hello from Sweetup. So that's a quick invocation, hello world, where it can see that tool that's out there, and it's able to ping that tool, pass on a method, and bring back the response. Make sense? So very, very simple API stuff over JSON. No magic going on here. Very, very simple. Now, what does this all mean for real stuff that you are building? So one of my nice go-to things for demos is this thing called JSON placeholder. Anyone heard of this? It's just a sample API tool. And what they do nicely is they give you lots of these endpoints which are RESTful. So for example, these posts and comments and albums, these are all RESTful commands. So I can go to there, and what it does is it brings back a list of 100 items in JSON format, and it's in Latin to make it cool, but it's all JSON, right? And it's all RESTful, so I can actually do a post and a delete and an edit to that list, and then the refresh after like 5 minutes, so nothing is lost. So what if this was my API? What if this was my database? What if this was my communication tool to a server, to my services layer, whatever it is that you want? Like this is your stuff. Let's just say you wanted AI agents to have access to this, right? So how would you go about doing this? So look at this one here first. This is the JSON body that I'm dealing with. So there's a user ID, there's a title and a body, nothing else to it. So what I can do in my code now is I can create this thing called a post data. Let's collapse this for a second. So I'm creating a post object, classic POCO object here. I can have a JSON property name to map it to different things if I want. And then once you new up this service, what I want you to do is make an HTTP call to that URL and bring back the list of posts. As simple as that, right? There's no authentication here. We're just saying, go talk to this endpoint and bring me back this list of posts. So who's making that HTTP call? That is coming from the post data tool here. Very similar to the echo tool. Now we are declaring this to be another MCP endpoint, which shows you or brings you back a list of posts, sample posts in this case. So we're going to new up that post service, and then we are going to do get posts. So we're going to call this exact command, which will bring back the list of posts from that endpoint. And if for some reason that fails, I have like a backup for sample 1 and 2, and it's serializing it and then deserializing it back up to show me the response. So if I call that here, get sample post data. You see that it sees it from the DLL. So I can invoke that. It doesn't need any parameters, so I can go. And it's going to ask me to use that MCP tool. I can say allow. And at this point, it's making that HTTP call. It said, hey, I successfully found 100 sample posts. It doesn't actually show me this, but I get into this, and this is where it's actually pulling down the 100 JSON objects in that URL. So in like 3 lines of code, what we did here was we brought back, we wrote our own service, and we pointed it to a set of data. Could be entity framework, could be anything over data or your services or some glue in between, and you're letting AI agents have access to that to make that URL endpoint call. Make sense? Very simple stuff so far, right? Everyone with me? Now, this is just the beginning. Once you have this, you can actually test this pretty easily with other team members. So if I go back in here, this I can never remember actually, but there is this thing called an MCP inspector, because like you're debugging the very tool that you're about to call. So this is sometimes nice. This is actually a React application, if I'm not mistaken, React over some data. So I can pull up this in my terminal. Let's make this bigger. All right, so let's go in here, and this was called my MCP, right? So let's go to my MCP, and I'm going to do an npx, which is like grab the bits, don't install an npm package, like bring down half the internet because I have hard disk space, and run it. right? So it's saying, hey, I found a React app, and here it's running on this proxy port, and this is running on localhost, right? So what it's doing here is it remembers the last time I ran it. So it's saying, hey, I noticed a DLL in here in that directory, which is the CSproj thing that you pointed me to. And here are the arguments. So it's actually looking at my CSproj and finding out where the built distributable DLL is. The command it's going to run is .NET, so it's a .NET console app, so it has to run .NET to actually fire this up. So let's hit connect, and you will see the exact same things that GitHub Copilot saw. Here, if I do a listing of the tools, it's going to say, hey, I see echo, and I see get posts, right? Makes sense? Which is exactly the same. I can invoke the echo tools here. Let's do Sam and run. Tool is successful, and comes back with hello from Sam. Right? So it's seeing the exact things, and this is a nice way for you to debug through. So if I run the get post sample data here, and here it's actually making that post out there, it's bringing back those 100 posts in JSON and saying here's the response. Make sense? So this is an inspector tool. It's actually very nice to be able to tinker with stuff. You can do environment variables, and this is all tools, but you can also do resources. You can expose prompts. So, it's anything that you can expose over JSON. It doesn't need to be a function. Everything is, fair game. Make sense? MCP standard. How long did we go? We got until 1:40? Okay, all right. Any questions so far? Any questions? Yes. No, not really. So the question is like static stuff. That's because like this is just a console app. So no, it's just whatever C# standards you use, anything is good. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As long as exactly like what we did with the MVC days, as long as it's a CRUD operation or anything that's exposed over an API, anything is fair game. What you do behind that scenes, like this particular tool here, like what it does behind this function invocation, that's all .NET, and anything is fair. Oh, this class particularly. No, it doesn't need to be static. This might be just my example being that, but no, and everything is fair game. Yeah. Okay. Now, how about some more things here? Let's look at. Well, actually, let me show you a different instance of this. So this is very simple, where I actually coded the post class and I exposed it out as an API. What can AI agents actually do when you give it MCPs like this? So in the last 10, 15 apps that I've built, I've actually not written the UI because it's good enough to AI agents are actually very good with HTML and XAML, so I can get around. So here I have proof that I cheated. So what I have done here is this is a Uno platform app. It's just a hello world app. I haven't done anything to it, but I came down here, and this is my history of the agent building it. I just said, hey, I want you to build a list view in my main page, which is the first visible page of my app. Make sure to use that get post. So I'm pointing it to the URL. So that is all that most AI agents need, because you can see like it actually makes that call, and it sees the response that's coming back from that API, and it says, hey, I see you're dealing with posts, and I see you have a main page, so let me get to work. So none of this is actually handwritten. So it actually created a model here, which is, kind of mimicking what the post thing is from the URL, and then it went to work. This is mainpage.xaml. For those of you who don't like XAML, yes, it gets a little verbose, but it's not. It's very easy to actually understand. You don't need to write any of this by hand. There are tools that help you, and now AI agents are actually very good. So it created a list view here, and I didn't ask for it, but it actually did some binding and actually gave me a click event handler, so I can click on something and get to more of the details here. So this being a cross-platform app, I can actually run this. Let's choose desktop. It's just the quickest to run because simulators take a bit to come up. So again, just with the fact that I have an MCP endpoint, I can create or have AI agents create apps like this, which is doesn't look like much, but I can click on each one, and then it shows me the details down here, and I can scroll through. Right, so it's able to build an app UI based on the MCP tool because it sees all the information that the MCP tool is exposing out. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, let me show you a little bit more like real-world API stuff here. Let's close this off, and let's look at a weather data sample. Let's go up here. That's my weather MCP. So this actually only works stateside because it's a U.S. government API. You might be having fun at all the things that U.S. is dealing with, but life moves on, right? This is actually a CS proj where it's pointing. It's got the same model context protocol, and it's running on .NET 10. What it's doing here is it's instantiating that MCP server, saying it's standard I/O, and it's using this HTTP client pointed to api.weather.gov, right? So that's an API that's well published. So what this does is it is looking at a couple of tools that it's exposing. One is get weather alerts, because that's something the API supports. So we will read that alert, get the active area where it is, like it's a state, and then I can also do get weather forecasts for a specific location. Now this one here, location, just the way the API is written up, it requires a double of lat and long. So you give it those two things, and then it brings back the weather forecast, detailed weather forecast for that location. You have to do a little bit of massaging with the JSON. This doesn't look very clean, but I'm just trying to parse out the things that I really need. So once you have this, let's look at this in a different example just for the kicks. Anyone use cursor? Okay. Anyone use anti-gravity? There's a couple of tools and Claude Code, and so this whole shift in software development is also exciting because some of us who have seen cross-platform from the mono days, you realize that between Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, the one thing that's common is a terminal. PowerShell or Bash, whatever it is, terminal works everywhere. So now you see GitHub Copilot or Copilot CLI. You see Claude Code working almost entirely in terminal and bypassing the IDE entirely. You can look up, code in your terminal, but it's kind of liberating when you are not stuck with the GUI of the terminal or the IDE all the time. It's, terminal is very, very fast and it's low on resources. So here is cursor. And by the way, this is something that's true of any MCP. So one thing that you may have noticed is it picks up those endpoints. So how does it actually pick up? So this is how it does it. So every IDE or every service has slightly different nuances to it, but it's all very similar. It's all JSON that it is. So here in cursor, we are dropping an mcp.json file at the root of the cursor IDE, and we are saying here are the MCP tools that you have access to. And it's very simple. Like here is the type of transport type, and here's the command. And I want you to run, look at CS proj, and I want you to build this console app and do a .NET run to actually get me the MCP. So this mcp.json, you can put this at per folder level, so at a workspace. So only MCP tools for that project or that workspace. Or you can do it at a user level, or you can do it at the root level. The root level means like every instance of cursor is going to have access to that MCP and so on. So if I look at the cursor settings now up here, you can see it automatically knows that here are the two MCPs that are enabled. So I got get alerts and I got get forecasts. Again, just API endpoints is what we are looking at. So if I pull up the AI agent here in cursor, so let's do get alerts for PA, my home state, and it's going to plan its next moves. Hopefully Wi-Fi is holding up. And there, it's found that MCP tool, and I can allow it. Oh, there's nothing going on in Pennsylvania, which is interesting. Okay, so let's do another one here. Get me weather forecast for New York City. So now remember, that API needed a lat long. And this is where the agents try to help out a little bit because they see that there is a MCP, and it invoked that because I had allowed it. I didn't have to actually create the lat long because if you look at, and where did that go? It's actually not showing. Oh, there it is. So this lat long, this is the AI agent looking up what the lat long is for New York City and invoking that MCP tool to say, here's the weather forecast for that particular city. So this is pretty generic stuff. It's a standard. let Microsoft and Google and Anthropic fight it out over the standard. We can benefit from just the standardization of it, that it works in every ID, every place. Now, MCP.json is nice, but sometimes AI agents are a little bit too smart for themselves. Even if they see an MCP tool, they're not guaranteed that they're going to invoke it, because like agents start getting smarter. Like you have done it a few times, it realizes what the API is. So sometimes you have to force an agent to actually go talk to an MCP tool. Even if it has access, might not always invoke it, right? So let's look at some more examples here. Let's actually go back to VS Code. And any more questions so far? Anyone have questions? Yeah, go ahead. So the question is offline agent that uses MCP tools? Yeah, I mean, as long as your MCP tools are available to the agent offline, but the moment the MCP tools require you to go ping some other service and endpoint, then you will need something else. Because it just, yeah. It can be, so local language models like Olama or anything else that's hosted locally. I mean, again, at some point you have to cross the HTTP bridge if it's hosted somewhere else. If all of your services are hosted locally and they're available through however you orchestrate your services, Aspire or anything else, then the AI agents will see all of the tools and be able to invoke it. But yeah. Yeah, question.
Maybe a bit of an annoying question. So these things, right, we're just this is kind of similar to an open API file.
Very much.
Where does MCP come in? Where does that add something instead of just an open API file?
You absolutely could. So the question is, how is this all that different from OpenAPI? And it's not. So OpenAPI, to me, is more about it's developer facing. So you're writing an API that my code is going to invoke. But for an AI agent to invoke that, this is that standard that the industry is leading towards. So same exact idea, like it's API at the end of the day, just done differently. So let me show you a little bit more real-world implications of what MCPs are and how they're useful. I'm going to show you just a little bit of Uno, not to actually get into it, but I have a session in the afternoon. But everything that I'm showing you here, this is all open source and this is all free. So I'm not trying to show you anything. So if you look at what we do, it's cross-platform dev. But if I look at the docs here, if I take you down to MCPs, this is what we have done. So we looked at MCPs and we realized that they can be actually very useful to bring context of a running app. And again, like do what makes sense for your enterprise and your apps. But we have created two MCP servers. One of them is remote, and it runs, in the cloud. But essentially, it's just an endpoint. So the AI agents are never ever guessing. We want anytime you ask something, the agent should know the latest docs. So this one exposes 4 or 5 different things. It can do a doc search. It can do a doc fetch. It can initialize an agent. It knows how to initialize an app and give it all the templates and things like that. So good starting point. And then this other MCP actually runs locally in your IDE, and this is what gives the AI agents some interactivity powers, and it's all done over MCP. So let me show you what this actually looks like. So I'm going to go open up a very simple Hello World app here. Let's look at this. I got 11 minutes left. All right, we can do this. Okay, so this one here is super simple, and we'll let this come up. iOS, no, it's going to take a while. Let's do desktop and run this again. This, by the way, is the same idea as Maui or Avalonia. It's cross-platform.NET. It's great that we have so much of choice as developers nowadays. So you get this little app, right? It's Hello World, and all it does, it just increments every time you click on that button, and then I can change up the increment size, and then it increments by that. Now, a couple of more things are going on here. This is where you see a little checkbox. This is saying, hey, I got hot reload working. So what that means is this is .NET hot reload with some extra things. Had it been just called lukewarm reload, then your expectations will be a little lower. Not everything needs to be hot, but it's trying. It's going to try its best. Within a certain view, view, if you don't switch up the view models, if you don't switch up the dependency injection, it's actually very good. So it's saying, hey, I see your app, I see your ID and your code, and I'm connected, so you can do design time things, and I have some MCPs wired up. So where is that coming from? Now, since this is it's already an Uno app, so it's actually doing things here. Let's create a new one here. And this is the agent. And if I look at the settings here, it has access to these 4 things. So it's seeing those 4 Uno platform MCPs, and then it's looking at all of these app MCPs, which are very app specific. So this is where it can actually click on a button. It can actually type in text. It can actually look at the visual tree of the app. So very context specific MCPs. So let's ask first. Do you have access to Uno platform MCP tools? Right? So it's going to fire up and look at that mcp.json, which we drop anyways, and it says, hey, I see all of these tools, nothing wrong with that. And now the agent is going to summarize and say, hey, these are all the things I see, and I can do stuff. Now, here's the benefit, though. Because it has those MCPs, my app is still running here, right? So I can say, in the running app, click on the counter button and tell me the latest count, right? If you fire off a thing like this to a generic agent, it's going to be like, I have no idea. I cannot do anything with your app. And here it's seeing, hey, like I need to get some runtime information. You're wanting me to do something with a running app, so I'll allow that. And now it's going to actually try to see the app, because the app, the agent doesn't know anything about what my app does. So here it's trying to get a visual screenshot of the app itself, and then it's going to try getting into the actual, DOM of the app, written with XAML. So it's getting to the pure action, trying to figure out how do I actually click on that button. And now it wants to take another screenshot. Let me look at the last exit. So it was at 24, right? So let's go ahead and allow that. And it did actually click the button, so now it's at 5. So it's reporting back to say, hey, I did click and it worked. So again, very, very context-specific things. So this is where you see AI agents really shining when you give it that context. Anyone using Cloud Code? Anyone? Okay, Cloud Code is fantastic. And there have been recent developments with a thing called Ralph, which is a loop. So essentially, when you say it to an AI agent, I want you to build this thing, it's eventually going to try to build that thing and stop. And it's not going to test that what it built is actually right. So anyone know of Playwright for web apps? This is essentially Playwright for .NET apps, right? So we are saying, hey, agent, don't stop. Why don't you test what you have built to make sure it's actually functional before you stop and do stuff? Make sense? So this is very custom implementation of an MCP, but this is the benefit we can now bring, where AI agents are that much more grounded in our docs, and they know exactly how to interact with our app once your app is up and running. So again, if I do a search here, tell me about Uno platform MVUX pattern. Now, this is C# and XAML, so MVVM works particularly well, but MVU is much more friendly to people who do Flutter and React, and now it's doing a doc search, and this is where you get that grounding effect, that it's really speaking to me powered by our docs. It's not now it's doing a doc fetch, because I actually found a couple of good pages. So you just have more confidence as a developer that the things that AI agents are giving you are exactly powered by the docs. So those days of us spending hours and hours reading docs, that's done. AI agents can read it so much faster, right? So use the AI agents, use AI where it really shines, and you can bring your own context. I got 6 more minutes. I got a few more things to show. But any questions so far? This was just an example of the MCPs that we have built, but you can build your own MCPs as well. With me so far? Yep. All right. Let's look at a few more examples. I can keep talking on and on. This is fun stuff. Any designers in the house? No. Anyone work with the designers? Okay, a couple of you. Let me try showing you a couple of quick things in the last 6 minutes, okay? First thing is, let's actually do skills really quick because that's going to take no time at all, and then we'll look at some design stuff. Let's look at this one here. This is also a super simple .NET console app. Nothing going on about this. So this one here is a program that's listing a class of athletes, and it's got GitHub Copilot wired up obviously here. So when I hit enter, it's trying to guess the next athlete that it's going to give me just as a sample data. But there are certain things you can do from the get-go to make AI work a little bit, towards your liking, your benefits. So in your, GitHub directory or .vs Code directory, you can always drop in this thing called the Copilot instructions.md. This is something specific to GitHub Copilot. Claude or Cursor have their own naming ways, but it's all the same. So here this is where you can say, and this is actually a good way to put it. Like anytime you're having a conversation with AI and you like something it does or you don't like something it does, make a note of it so that you don't iterate on that again. Put it down as a guardrail. So you want AI to do certain things or you don't want. Your team's coding standards, like do not ever name my functions this way, all of it goes in here, right? And it's going to read this, so you don't have to type this over and over again. So here I'm using an agent mode. So if I do a hello, hopefully it reads that instruction file. And the user asks me to say hello. And it says, hi, Captain. How can I be assisting here, right? So because I asked you to talk to like an agent. So again, anything that you find really useful, put it down as a Copilot instructions. And then there is also this thing called skill. So again, what's MCP versus a skill? So let me see if I can show you this. Let's go up here. I wrote an article about this. Let's go to our blogs. And let's look at this one, actually. So think about an AI agent being the chef, right? Or when you are cooking at home. You don't need to memorize a whole cookbook to make dinner, right? You just need the right ingredients. Any chef will tell you the quality of food and the ingredients is what dictates how good your dinner is. So MCP tools are ingredients, like your poultry, your flour, your oil. Those are the ingredients. Those are the tools you're asking it to invoke. While a skill is a recipe card. So the agent doesn't need to remember the whole cookbook. It can pull up how do I make pasta, and it knows exactly the steps. So the skills are essentially steps. So if you are ever doubting like what should I do and what it should be, here's the end game. So if it goes in the pantry, or if it's something that looks like an ingredient, it should be an MCP tool. If it's something that goes in the fridge, or it's something that's repeatable, then it becomes a skill, and you can use both all together. So here is a skill that's saying, I know how to do hello world, right? So it should be looking at it. Do you see, or let's say, do you have a skill? Let's see if it reads that. Yeah, and it's reading that hello world MD, and it say, hi, Captain, I see your, this is kind of annoying when someone talks to you like a pirate. What would you like me to do? Let's say, yes, please, if I can type. You got to say please to AI agents, right? Because otherwise they might be upset. User wants me to implement a hello world skin in program.cs. Are you going to actually do it? Oh, it's still thinking. So skills are essentially, now it actually did ask you, which is pretty nice actually. So think about a skill as a way of running scripts, think of it as a way of repeating. So anytime you want an AI agent to look at an AI, like an API, and build you an UI, those are the steps that should be listed in your skill. And inside that skill, you can very explicitly say, you have access to these MCP tools. Make sure you use that, right? And this is a keyword. Please make sure you use the tools, because sometimes it will see the tools and still not use it, which is not good, right? So that's a skill. And so use it as it makes sense. So I got one more last minute, but can I show you one last demo before we leave? Okay, so what's possible with all of these MCPs and other things working together? Let's show you one last demo. So if you have the option of working, or the luxury of working with designers, they might be in things like Figma or Adobe, right? So these are designer tools. So we have, let's do this. Let's go really quick. I'm going to try to get a Figma design up. And let's do design to code. And again, I'm just showing you things from a Uno perspective, but you can see the examples being standardized and generalized. So this one here starts off in a material toolkit. So this is what the designers will look at, and they are creating a design for your app. And in the past, we have done a deterministic way. So these are my app designs, right? And I can generate C# and XAML out of these app designs, but it needs that my designer work with particular toolkit, and it has some constraints, and it knows how to generate C# and XAML, but only for that screen in that particular toolkit. What if I wanted AI to do this? So this is a login screen, right? Figma also explores or exposes all of those things with an MCP server. So you can actually choose any layer of your design, and that becomes a URL. So here is me running through this. Again, I have cheated, so I'm going to show you the proof that AI did it. So this is me saying, do you have access to MCP tools, Figma tools? And it says, yes, I see all of the Figma tools. This, by the way, there's an MCP marketplace for Cursor, for GitHub Copilot. Everyone has an MCP marketplace. So pick out the MCPs that work the best for you. This is the Figma MCP, and I got GitHub MCP, so it can do things for me. So here it's going off, and I said, use the MCP from Figma, read that design. So here's the URL of that login screen. I said, read that design. And it said, here are the colors. Here's the input field. I see some material design in here. Here's the primary, tertiary color. I see some typography. And now it said, can I build this for you in a real .NET app? And I said, yes, of course. So let's go fire this off as one last thing. And we'll run this without any code, because now we have the Uno MCPs as well. So Uno MCPs are working with the Figma MCPs to make sure what we build is actually functional, and it looks very similar to the Figma design. Let's pull that up, and let's go here. So this is where my design was, and this is my actual .NET app, all written with MCPs, right? So what I'm trying to say is let MCPs do their work. So if you bring the right context, AI agents are that much more confident in pulling off what you're asking them to do. I am completely out of time, so I'm going to stop here. Hopefully what you see is there's a lot of ammunition for us to go build stuff, make AI contextual, make it work for you. Thank you so much for spending an hour with me. Thank you.